The movie opens in 1957 at a bustling car manufacturing plant in Detroit, where the assembly line is hard at work producing new vehicles. Among them is Christine, a red 1958 Plymouth Fury, an iconic car destined to be more than just a machine. From the very beginning, Christine exhibits signs of malevolence. When a worker inspects the car, the hood suddenly slams shut on his hand, causing a severe injury. Later, another worker who carelessly drops cigar ash on Christine's pristine seat is found dead inside the vehicle. The car's radio mysteriously plays on its own, hinting that Christine is not just any ordinary vehicle, but one with a mind of its own. The story then leaps forward to 1978 in Rockbridge, California, where we meet Dennis Gilder, a high school senior who drives to pick up his friend, Arnold "Arnie" Cunningham. Arnie rushes out of his house, accidentally dropping trash in the driveway, grabbing lunch from his mother, and hurrying to Dennis's car. Arnie is a socially awkward nerd, a stark contrast to Dennis. As they drive to school, their differences are apparent, yet their strong friendship bond shines through. On his first day back at school, Arnie struggles to open his locker. Dennis, meanwhile, is approached by Terry and Roseanne, who ask about his plans to join the football team, which he confirms. Arnie is soon taunted by one of Dennis's friends, and the new girl, Lee Cabot, distracts them as the teacher orients her. After the distraction, Dennis helps Arnie with his locker and promises to meet him for lunch before rushing off to class. However, Arnie doesn't show up for lunch, prompting Dennis to search for him. Charlie informs Dennis of Arnie's whereabouts, leading him to the school shop, where he finds Arnie being harassed by Buddy Repperton, a notorious bully, and his gang. Dennis intervenes to help Arnie, but the situation escalates when Buddy pulls a switchblade on Arnie, destroys his lunch, and taunts him further. Dennis urges Buddy to drop the knife, but Buddy's gang retaliates, tripping both Dennis and Arnie and breaking Arnie's glasses. Dennis manages to defuse the situation by confronting Buddy, but another gang member attacks him. The commotion draws the attention of Mr. Casey, the auto shop teacher. Mr. Casey confronts Buddy and Dennis, and Arnie reveal the knife. Upon finding it, Mr. Casey expels Buddy and suspends his gang members. Before leaving, Buddy vows to get revenge on Arnie. After school, Dennis drives Arnie home. Arnie is fearful of Buddy's threats, but Dennis reassures him that Buddy will find someone else to pick on. As they drive past a dilapidated house, Arnie spots a rundown 1958 Plymouth Fury parked in the yard. Despite its poor condition, Arnie is captivated by the car. The owner, George LeBay, is eager to sell the vehicle, revealing that it's named Christine. Despite Dennis's concerns and the car's decrepit state, Arnie buys Christine for $250, a decision that marks the beginning of a profound and sinister change in his life. Arnie's parents are far from pleased with his purchase and refuse to let him keep Christine at their home. Unfazed, Arnie takes the car to Darnell's do-it-yourself garage, run by the gruff and unwelcoming Will Darnell. Darnell, who knew the car's previous owner, warns Dennis that the owner died in the car, but he takes it lightly. Although initially rough on Arnie and Dennis, Darnell sees potential in Arnie's determination and agrees to let him restore Christine at the garage. Dennis drives Arnie home and questions his decision to buy Christine. Arnie explains that he felt the car matched his own perceived ugliness, but Dennis dismisses the notion. Darnell offers Arnie a part-time job at the garage, giving him access to the parts needed to restore Christine. Arnie accepts and begins obsessively restoring the car. That night, Dennis visits Arnie to pick him up for a planned movie outing, but is taken aback by Arnie's sudden rebellious and arrogant behavior toward his parents and himself. Arnie storms off in Darnell's car, heading to work on Christine. Arnie's mother expresses her concerns about his attitude change, revealing that they discovered disturbing information during Christine's registration process. Dennis is alarmed to learn that indeed the car's previous owner, Roland LeBay, died from carbon monoxide poisoning inside the vehicle. Growing increasingly suspicious of Christine, Dennis visits George LeBay for more information. LeBay shares troubling details about his late brother Roland's obsession with the car, describing it as a descent into madness. He recounts a series of tragic events involving Christine, including the death of his 5-year-old niece, who choked inside the car, and the subsequent suicides of his sister-in-law and brother inside the vehicle. Later, Dennis sneaks into Darnell's car yard and attempts to break into Christine. The car door remains locked and the radio turns on, causing Dennis to flee, now fully convinced that Christine is no ordinary car. During a high school football game, Arnie arrives in the now fully restored Christine with a dramatic transformation in both the car and himself. To everyone's surprise, including Dennis, Arnie is now dating Lee, who had previously shown little interest in other boys, but is inexplicably drawn to Arnie. Distracted by the sight of Arnie and Lee kissing in front of Christine, Dennis is injured during the game. He is rushed to the hospital where Arnie visits him. Dennis informs Arnie that his injury is severe enough to end his football career, marking a significant turning point in Dennis's life. During the visit, Dennis expresses his deep concern over Arnie's relationship with Lee and Christine. Arnie, however, attributes his newfound confidence to his bond with Christine. One night, Arnie and Lee attend a drive-in movie in Christine. Lee grows increasingly uncomfortable inside the car, sensing something sinister about it. Despite her misgivings, she reluctantly returns to the car, only to experience a terrifying incident. She begins choking on a hamburger, and Christine's doors lock on their own, preventing Arnie from helping her. A passerby eventually saves her, and Lee narrowly escapes death. Shaken by the experience, Lee vows never to ride in Christine again and pleads with Arnie to get rid of the car. Arnie, however, dismisses her fears, insisting that Christine is just a car. Lee's decision to distance herself from Christine only seems to amplify the car's sinister nature. At first, the vehicle refuses to start, only yielding when Arnie reassures it of his affection. Afterward, Arnie drives Christine to Darnell's garage and heads home. Meanwhile, Buddy Repperton and his gang, still seething with resentment towards Arnie, execute their revenge by vandalizing Christine. The next day, Lee accompanies Arnie to retrieve his wallet from Christine, and he discusses applying to the same college after high school. However, when Arnie discovers Christine's destruction, he becomes enraged, lashing out at Lee and ending their relationship in a fit of anger. That night, Arnie directs his fury at his parents, blaming them for the incident because they refused to let him park Christine at home. His anger spirals out of control, leading to a physical altercation with his father. The following day, Arnie returns to Darnell's garage, but instead of succumbing to despair, his obsession with Christine deepens. To his astonishment, Christine begins to repair herself, revealing her supernatural ability to regenerate. This marks the beginning of a deadly vendetta. That evening, Christine, acting on her own, hunts down and kills Moochie Welch by crushing him against a wall. When Arnie visits Dennis in the hospital, he coldly informs him of Moochie's death, showing no remorse. Dennis, shocked by Arnie's detachment, expresses concern about what might happen if Buddy attacks the car again, but Arnie dismisses his worries, confident that Christine will be fine. As Arnie leaves the hospital, State Police Detective Rudolph Junkins, otherwise known as Rudy, intercepts him and questions him about his car and his potential involvement in Moochie's death. Rudy examines Christine for signs of damage, but the car is in perfect condition, much to his surprise. Aware of Moochie's role in trashing the car, Rudy asks for the repair receipt, but Arnie claims he discarded it and firmly denies any involvement in the crime. Later that night, Arnie tries to reconcile with Lee over the phone, but when she doesn't agree to his terms, he insults her and abruptly ends the call. Christine, once again acting on her own, tracks down Buddy and Don during a night drive. She follows them to a gas station and, in a deadly display, destroys Buddy's car, triggering a fiery explosion that kills Don. Buddy flees in terror, but Christine relentlessly pursues him, ultimately running him down and setting his body ablaze. Despite her battered appearance, Christine returns to Darnell's garage, alarming him. Suspicious, Darnell tries to inspect the car, but the door handle burns his hand. When he finally manages to open the door, he is horrified to realize that the car has been operating on its own. As he sits in the driver's seat, Christine crushes him against the steering wheel, ending his life. The next morning, Arnie arrives at the garage in Darnell's Cadillac, only to find the police on the scene. They discover Darnell's body inside Christine, but once again, the car is in excellent condition. Detective Rudy, increasingly intrigued by the mysterious deaths, questions Arnie about his connection to the victims. However, Arnie has a solid alibi, backed by receipts of his whereabouts, leaving Rudy suspicious, but without concrete evidence to pursue the investigation further. As the death toll rises, Lee contacts Dennis, and they meet to discuss the situation. Dennis shares the dark history of Christine, and they become convinced that the car is responsible for the recent killings and that it has somehow corrupted Arnie. Determined to end Christine's reign of terror, they devise a plan to destroy her. Arnie arrives to pick up Dennis, and Lee hides to avoid being seen. During the drive, Arnie demonstrates how Christine can drive herself without any input from him, dangerously running other drivers off the road. Arnie's transformation into a confident and aggressive figure is stark, a far cry from the meek and mild boy Dennis once knew. Dennis scratches the car in a bid to lure her to Darnell's garage. That night, Dennis sneaks in and gives Lee access. They position themselves in a bulldozer, ready to crush Christine as soon as she appears. However, Christine proves more resilient than they anticipated, emerging from a pile of scrap metal with her headlights blazing. She charges at Lee, forcing her to flee on foot. Now fully possessed by an evil force, Christine is relentless in her attack. Arnie, who is driving, tries to run Lee down, but she hides in Darnell's office. Arnie is thrown through the windshield, impaled by a shard of glass. In a poignant moment, Arnie reaches out to touch Christine one last time. In response, the car plays "Pledging My Love" by Johnny Ace on the radio as Arnie succumbs to his injuries. Even after Arnie's death, Christine continues her onslaught, repairing herself with alarming speed. Dennis notices this and manages to corner her with the bulldozer, eventually crushing her into a twisted heap of metal. The next day, Dennis, Lee, and Detective Rudy watch as Christine's remains are compacted into a cube at a junkyard. Although Rudy congratulates them on stopping the car, the victory is bittersweet. They may have destroyed Christine, but they were unable to save Arnie from the evil that consumed him. The movie ends with a subtle hint that Christine's malevolent spirit may not be entirely vanquished as her grill twitches, unnoticed by anyone.